This is the Vauxhall Grandland Hybrid-E. It's a plug-in hybrid version of Vauxhall's popular 5-seat SUV, the Grandland. Now, in theory, you get just under 40 miles of pure electric running, and then when that runs out, you've got a 1.6 litre petrol engine to back it up. This is a car for people for whom going pure electric is just that little bit too scary. So for just under £34,000, you get a car that's theoretically capable of loads of miles to the gallon, is highly tax efficient, and is surprisingly good looking. The question is it any good?
So, the Park Plug Grandland. Actually pretty good looking all told. Vauxhall has overhauled its previously pretty stuffy image and made some really good fashion choices. It's got almost the same handsome visor front end that we've seen on other Vauxhalls like the Mokka, pleasingly crisp shapes at the front and down the sides. I like this fin detail on the C-pillar, rounding off with a slightly less memorable backside. This is the GS line and gets 18-inch alloys, a black roof, black details and tinted rear windows, as well as lots of interior kit, but more on that later.
I realise that Vauxhall are slightly worried that you might not know what this car is because they've written the word Grandland in large letters all across the back. And by the way, the word Grandland reminds me of the penny arcades in somewhere like Cleethorpes, although that could just be me. So when this turned up, I was actually quite impressed. I think it looks vaguely handsome, especially in this two-tone paint job, which is a £600 option, by the way. The thing is, the mid-size SUV is the hardest of shapes to make even look vaguely interesting, and I think this is a particularly strong effort, especially because the old Grandland was so dull that you forgot what it looked like even when you owned it. Once you've got through these doors, which incidentally don't actually open that wide, you'll find that we have 5 seats, although the rear middle seat, even though it's wide enough in the seat base, there's nowhere to actually put your feet. Well, not properly anyway, though you do get Isofix child seat mounting points on the 2 outer seats in the back and on the front passenger seat, and the rear seats, they split 60-40. Which leads us to the boot, which is, well, it's only okay, unfortunately, because under the back, it's got some of the hybrid bits stuffed up underneath it. Now, the standard Grandland has a 514 litre rear compartment, whereas this Hybrid-E only gets 390. To give that some context, it's bigger than a normal hatchback, but to be honest, a pure electric car of this size would absolutely eat it for boot space.
Up front is a weird case of déjà vu. Vauxhall now sits in a kind of manufacturing supergroup called Stellantis, which includes both Peugeot and Citroën, so you do recognise bits like this gear stick. But that's not to say they're bad. Vauxhall calls this multimedia section the Pure Panel display. That's a 10-inch colour touchscreen here, a 12-inch display here. It all works well enough, but I've recently been driving other systems in similarly priced cars, and this is starting to look a little bit dated. Already.
And it's not actually the fastest either. Saying that, it does come fairly well equipped. You've got Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, LED headlights in the front, adaptive cruise control, there's dual zone climate, lots of other bits and bobs. It does feel like quite good value in terms of the toys that you get. Suffice to say, there are buttons to push and it all works. And I think at this price point, the materials are pretty good. I will say one thing though, all of this shiny black plastic plus that touchscreen will get awfully fingerprinty and dirty in about 3, 2, 1. It's already dirty. It's already horrible. Walk with me, because a plug-in hybrid sounds quite complicated, but in theory it is quite simple. Under here we have a 1.6 litre petrol 4-cylinder engine with 178 brake horsepower. Between that and the 8-speed automatic gearbox is a 108 brake horsepower electric motor, and they play together to make good things happen. Plug it into a home wall box here and you can charge up the very small 13.2 kilowatt-hour battery to give you a theoretical 39 miles of pure electric range, although it is more like 24 in the real world, in about 3 hours.
The more you plug in and use cheap electricity, the cheaper the car is to run. In theory, you're looking at 192 miles to the gallon. I've been getting an average 75, which is still not to be sniffed at. And don't forget, if you're plugging in every night at home and keeping it mostly local, you'll also be keeping it mostly pure electric. Over time, that makes this car cheaper to run than a car with just an engine.
And then if you put petrol in here, when the electricity runs out, you end up with just a traditional hybrid car that keeps some electrical assistance so that it all still feels nice and perky. If you have to commute from Aberdeen to Exeter with just one 10-minute stop, you can do it in a plug-in hybrid.
Now that gives us a total of 223 brake horsepower to play with. Now, the numbers don't quite add up because the electric motor and the petrol engine don't always offer their maximums at the same time, but it should be enough to get going in a family carrying bus. But to be honest, only just. The Grandland takes an age to work out what you want to do because the gearbox is a little bit slow-witted. Here I am crawling along, and if I put my foot flat to the floor, one, it takes ages to change down a couple of gears, and then when it does start to go, it's just not very fast. And I don't mean not fast in terms of sports cars, I mean it's just quite a slow car. It gets from 0 to 62 miles an hour in a shade over 9 seconds. Believe me, this isn't a rocket ship. Here we go. I can run faster than this. You have different modes which you access through this little drive mode selector down here. So you've got Sport, which doesn't really do anything. Then there's Hybrid, which makes the most use of both powertrains, so it mixes between electric motor and the engine and a little bit of both together. And then you've got Electric, which basically will just operate on electric until the battery is exhausted. It's got a B mode for brake regeneration if you pull the gear stick back another notch like that, and it's fine, it's not particularly strong. Generally though, it feels like the kind of car that is very much happier just pottering. It doesn't want to go fast, it doesn't want to do anything particularly exciting. Is it exciting? No. I mean, it's exciting in the same way that beige is an exciting colour. It's not. I mean, it all works. There is body control, your steering wheel steers, the wheels go where you point them, it brakes when you press the brake pedal. But I've been more engaged by slowly drying paint, and that is not a compliment. Okay, so the broad verdict is that the Grandland generally seems to be for people who aren't really that bothered about what car they drive, as long as it does the job. The interesting thing here is that Vauxhall reckons that the all-in monthly costs of the plug-in hybrid work out as largely the same, if not slightly cheaper, than the most popular petrol Grandland, despite the higher initial purchase price, which works for both businesses and private customers.
Plug it in more and use more cheaper than petrol electricity, and you could make even bigger savings. And don't forget, the company car tax, the benefit in kind on this car is about 12%. So if you get it on a company car scheme, you could be looking at relatively practical motoring for cheap. The thing is, in my opinion, you'd only really consider this if you were already looking at a solely petrol-powered Grandland. It looks all right, but it drives very averagely, and even though it's got tons of kit, it doesn't really have any of the advantages of either pure electricity or just a purely petrol engine that costs a bit less money. It's fine, but no more than that. Do me a favour and let me know in the comments what you think about plug-in hybrids, whether they're a brilliant halfway house or a completely pointless best of neither world, specifically this one.
So there you have it, the Vauxhall Grandland Hybrid-e dissected. And if you want to know more about any car that comes with a plug, then please do log on to electrifying.com and we'll fill you in on the various options, and help you buy one as well.